together. We went over for weekends and everything. Ruby and I and a friend of Ruby's were rooming in one room. I don't think Irving was there that weekend. It was Ruby and I and a friend of his, Phil something or other. And there were girls in the next room. So when Saturday night arrived, Ruby knocked on the door and he'd say, on the wall of the next room, and he'd say, next door, Cass, earrings tonight, earrings tonight. Now that's real humor. That's real fun.
What do you say, evenings?
Earrings.
Oh.
Earrings tonight, next door, Cass, you know, in Jewish. Earrings tonight.
The one's next door. Who is Feta Zussel? My mother used to reminisce about these Friday nights. She said Feta Zussel would come carrying oranges.
He was an uncle. Feta was uncle.
I know, but I mean, how
he
was
was
he
an
related?
old man with a long beard. I don't remember how he was related, but I remember him. He had a beard down to here.
A moment growing,
Do you remember Feta Zussel?
You don't remember Feta Zussel?
I remember him, but I can't add anything about him.
Do you remember
Your mother knew him.
Now, Ida might remember what about the history of the actual family dwellings? Like, what was the first place that the family
Well, we moved every year. You know, you got a concession for a month, so you took the concession and moved.
My mother said they started off on the Lower East Side.
Yeah, I was born on the East
Can you
Side.
tell us about that apartment?
Well, I don't remember too much of the Lower East Side.
And we used to move to same in area.
We lived to Washington Avenue.
Do you
we moved to
remember that
Washington.
first apartment on the Lower East Side?
No, I don't remember. I was about 3 years old. I remembered Louis' Shiver period.
That was on the Lower East Side.
That was on the Lower East Side.
And then they moved to the Bronx shortly afterwards.
Moved to the East Bronx, and then we got rich. We moved to the West Bronx. You know.
Then we got moved to the West Bronx.
It was really something. It really was. Although I imagine every family must have a similar history, or a similar history of sorts.
Where was the?
That isn't exclusive with the Epsteins.
At what point did the Lewis Morris come into the picture?
They got an apartment.
Oh, we had to have an apartment for all of us to live in. We were a big crew.
And is that where the Friday nights were happening?
Probably.
Yeah, that's where the Friday nights were happening.
The Lewis Morris?
In fact, my sister Lee bought a baby grand piano. And she bought the Spanish shawl to cover it. You know, she was fancy.
Some gal.
She really was. Well, I wrote her obit, and I called it to Charlie. And Charlie read it, I understand.
Yes. At the funeral, we got Murray's words in there. Yeah.
She was something. What?
How about the car that Lee drove?
Oh, yes.
And Sal had to be a chauffeur.
Yes. Lee bought an old Pierce Arrow where there was a separate space for the chauffeur. And there was, it was called a cabriolet or something like that in the back. And there was a speaker in the back for Lee to give instructions to the chauffeur. And Lee was nearsighted, like many of us were. She was the first one to wear contact lenses. And that was in the 30s. She wore contact lenses. And Solly was the chauffeur for Lee's Pierce Arrow. I don't know what made her buy the car, but she wanted a car. She couldn't drive then. Oh, that car was something. In fact, I always wanted to get out of New York, so once they took me for a ride to Mount Kisco. And I said, wow, I'm not in New York City. I'm out of the city. I'm in Mount Kisco. He was such a big deal in those years.
What about the famous trip with Violet, I believe, to Florida? Wasn't that in that Pierce Arrow?
No.
That I don't know.
Mom always talked about it.
Separate cars.
I see. Were there any highlights that you remember of that trip?
You saw it. Me and the baby.
Oh, all right. That was the famous trip.
You in the what?
The baby.
Oh,
Murray, do you remember the incident? Murray?
yeah.
Murray.
I'm listening.
The fact. The incident when Lee and I think Ray, Lee had a toothache, and they were driving. They were up in the. They went to the horse races.
Yeah.
And remember, Lee had a toothache, and they stopped at a gas station.
I don't
Come
remember
here and
that.
tell us. Frida.
I don't remember that. No, I don't.
And they were driving
Well, you know,
around.
no one said anything about Ray. No one said any good stories about her.
Yeah, are there any Ray
Wait,
stories?
where's Artie? Artie.
Oh, Artie.
Come tell the Ray story.
Artie, come.
Come on.
Ray, Artie, that's fantastic. Come on. Artie, now is the
Tell the
time.
ghost story.
Artie, please. What's the matter?
Charlie.
No, I'm all right there. I'm feeling a little
This morning
better.
you just told us. Huh?
What's about Ray? I didn't know Ray had stories.
I don't know.
No, Artie has a wonderful story about Ray, which
All we know is Ray was married at the age of 16.
Yeah.
She had a baby at the age of 17, or something like
How many
that.
months apart was the
Or
marriage?
16 and a half. And you're one of the products of that
That's
event.
why I'm curious. Hadn't heard such things.
But I want to tell you, Ray's husband, your grandfather, Sam, he was crazy about her. Boy, he was nuts about her. And it changed.
how does she happen to get married so young?
Well, Sam wouldn't let her go. Sam was really nuts about
I
her.
see, I see.
You see, your grandfather was the son of the builder of the public theater, the Jewish theater. It was a Jewish theater in those days. Nathan Schulman. And Sam was
He owned
Nathan
5
Schulman's
theaters,
son.
Didn't he own 5 theaters?
I don't know, but there was a tie-in between Benny and the Labritsky's. Violet's aired. And there was a tie-in. That was how your grandfather met your grandmother, through that business.
You know what we're forgetting? The whole Yiddish theater connection with Fanny.
Oh, I didn't forget it. I talked about it last night.
Well, but, we don't have it on. We haven't recorded it. Violet,
His mother.
Rita.
come on.
Rita
Violet.
has 3 gorgeous sons. He's one of them. You are, Robbie. You are gorgeous. Robbie, Rennie, and
Let's grab a
and
chair.
Richard.
Now, look, I know.
I don't know your brothers at all. I didn't know you until
Let
today.
me start with a question. My mama told me that she and Ray used to have twin sister acts, and they would sing and do things.
Yes, they would
Where
sing.
would they do this? I mean, what's the story?
In the living
The
room.
living room. They never made it to Broadway. Mom told me she had Broadway offers, which she had to refuse because she was making too much money with Tilton and Keeler. I know she dated Milton
She
Berle.
did?
She dated Milton
I didn't
Berle.
know she had Broadway offers.
That's what she said. And my mother. She had 1 or 2 dates with Milton Berle. She
your
says all she
mother?
remembers is he had dirty fingernails.
Your mother is who?
Lee.
Lee had 1 or 2 dates with who?
Milton Berle. And she
With
dated
Milton Berle, yeah.
She dated Jerry Lewis's father, Danny Lewis, in the
Her own
Catskills.
fault.
So apparently she used to hang out in the Catskills and was on the edge of the show business crowd.
Well,
I don't know.
You don't know about that.
when Lee used to entertain, I'll tell you when she entertained. Milton,
Ladies, Rita. I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Lee's husband, was one of the foremost bridge players in the world. And he would go on cruises and taking his wife, teaching bridge and getting paid for it. And he went all over the world. And Lee would be part of the entertainment. She would sing. In
Into
fact,
her
we
70s.
saw some films.
No, into her 70s,
of your mother
she
singing.
performed on shipboard with the ship orchestra. Absolutely. So let's hear about Fanny. I mean, our major Yiddish theater collection. Thank
Collection,
you.
thank
Connection. Connection is Fanny Lubritsky, Violet's mother.
She came from a theatrical family. My mother was born in London. I lie for her just like she would like. She's born in Warsaw. But if you asked her, she said she was born in London.
That's
She
funny.
was raised there, and I was always told that she had a brother who died, who was the secretary to the Prince of Wales. I don't know which one, but that's the story. Anyway, my grandfather on that side was a director in the Yiddish theater, and he traveled all over the world. When I was at NYU and I had a WPA dramatic teacher, he was excited to find out I was Isaac Yunkel's grandchild. My mother started, and her sister Golda and Davy, and probably Bonnie, in the theater practically at birth. In those days, there were lots of children's parts, and so they started there. Let's see. I believe that she carried me on the stage for 8 months. A month later, I was born. I had been told by many a Yiddish actor how they diapered me. That,
That's
which
funny.
only means that I was backstage a lot, never on stage. The Yiddish theater, as most of you know, was very good for a number of years, and then it started dying out, which was very upsetting to my mother. However, when she came out to San Francisco in her 60s, she began to do commercials. And some of you may have seen some that she did. There was also an actor's workshop there, and at 80, they called her. And she did several plays with the actors' workshop. Mother was full of arthritis, but when she played at Hadrian and had to kowtow and bow down, no trouble. She did it perfectly. And she died at 87, still performing, but not on the stage.
What year was that?
12 years ago.
Today is 91, so.
I have a description from my mother of your great-grandfather's grandfather? Schulman's.
Nathan
Of
Schulman.
Schulman's incredible mansion in Brooklyn. Were you there? There were apparently garages for 7 cars and...
It was the Rupert, the brewery people sold it.
What was it, Rita?
Rupert House.
Rupert Brewery.
Yeah,
Would you
they
like,
owned it.
Rita, would you like to get in and
Come say a few words about it.
Yeah, I'll get up.
No,
No, stay.
Hey, I'll move, she'll come in.
Get in, you're in the...
Right.
This mansion I was
Mom,
told about
get down
too,
just a little bit more. There you go.
but I don't know anything except what I was told about. I know that it was owned by the Rupert people who owned
What was owned?
the brewery, the house, the mansion. And I was told many stories about it as well, that they had bought it from them. And they had it for quite a few years. When my mother first got married, she lived in that mansion with my father. But I don't know much more about it than that.
I see.
Your descriptions probably are more vivid than mine.
Well, I think I might even have it recorded somewhere on audio cassette, but I believe she said there were garages for 7 cars.
And they had them.
And they had them. They had
Yeah.
the 7 cars.
And I remember one thing about one of the rooms where this had never been unheard of, where the ceiling opened up for one of the holidays. Which was that?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, Sukkot.
The Sukkot, that's right. They pressed the button in the
Sukkot.
ceiling. They
No
did not
kidding.
do that in many places in those
That's
days.
pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Yiddish theater connection through the Shulman side, along with the Epstein, and that whole connection from your perspective.
As I understand, they met babysitting for me,
Who did?
my
My.
mother and
I didn't know that. I
That
truly
was
did
my
not know how my mother and father
Your
met.
mother is...
Ray. Ray of Lee and Ray the twins.
Did you have twins?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
She tried that.
Now,
She held her legs closed.
another part of the Yiddish theater story, which maybe you can fill me in on, is Mom told me that she used to every night go to the Cafe Royale, which was
Yeah,
the
they-
hangout.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody
And she knew Paul Muni, and she knew all the big...
Oh, yes.
Now, were you there, Violet?
Certainly.
So everybody went there.
The first shrimp, you'll excuse me, I ever ate Paul Muni gave me.
Ach, wer?
When you Weizenfrei.
Yeah.
A Schrimpfresser.
Violet's father introduced Muni to his wife, to Bella
What is
Finkel.
that? Violet?
Violet's father
That
introduced Paul Muni to Bella Finkel, whom he married.
No kidding. I see.
That was part of it, too.
It was a
see.
very
You know,
close click, actually.
you just
in that
reminded me of
yeah,
one.
Yiddish theater.
Just reminded me of another story. In the winter of '88, which was Mom
The
was,
year of the blizzard.
year at the blizzard. No, it was the last time I was
19
home.
or 18?
88. Thank you.
1988.
1988. The winter of '88, I was home, as has been my custom, for a couple of months, and I took my mother and father in Los Angeles to a roadshow Yiddish musical, and in it was this young guy who was the son of an actor that used to be crazy about my mother. I was trying to communicate it to her during the show. She didn't hear it. But I mean, she was just a tiny little thing at this point, but all dolled up with the snake eye dark glasses and the earrings and the lipstick. And in the audience was Jan Pierce, apparently. And unbeknownst to me, during the intermission, she went out into the lobby and befriended Jan Pierce. Just walked right up to him. And she came back and had stories about it. Well, the next June, she broke her hip, and that was the beginning of her decline. So that was really her last stand.
Her
And then,
last hurrah.
and the previous summer, which would have been her 83rd birthday, I think, I took them out to a sort of a nightclub where there was a torch singer of some kind. And I can't remember what the entree was, but she must have said, "Are there any birthdays?" or something like that. And I said, or maybe I just told her, "This is my mother's birthday." Well, she gave the mic to Mom when she heard that Mom was a singer, and Mom belted out a number at 83. So, so the showbiz streak ran very deep. But Cafe Royale was...
It was a hangout for the people on
Yeah.
Avenue.
It was the whole literary group of the Yiddish world.
Right.
The newspaper people, the theater people. And
Yeah, wait a
then
few
was-
minutes there. It's early.
you had a
I'll go
ticket,
upstairs
you
with you
had
in a
to
couple of
have
minutes.
six, You went to the Royal.
So I mean, did a number of members of the family then go?
Sure, the Royal Theater, the Royal Cafe was.
It is now a laundry.
Now a laundry.
And the Public Theater is no more.
No, it's
Boy.
not.
We-
Nor
yeah,
is the Second Avenue on the house.
Right. Remember what, with the Public Theater, the Cornerstone, it was a
Sure.
tradition to throw things into the cornerstone as it was being built, and a lot of people threw valuables, rings and stuff in. And Sandy Fenn used to have a plan that she's going to go up and with workhorses and chop out the cornerstone. And the theater is gone, and we don't know what happened to the
No,
cornerstone.
I think my mother also used to tell me that a lot of the show people showed up on Friday nights for these famous Epstein revelries. I mean, do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Don't remember people from the interstate?
Well, they used to come to eat my mother's gefilte fish. I remember that somewhat. Don't
Anybody
you?
who could
Would
take.
come.
Don't you, Rita?
Nobody
Yeah.
makes gefilte fish like your mother.
No,
That's
to
right.
this day,
To
I've
this
not had.
day, I cannot get
Ludwig
ever
Zatz, I think,
gefilte
was one of the
Agree.
famous ones, if I remember
She had been a
correctly.
marvelous cook.
I don't remember,
Altogether,
but
she was a wonderful cook.
I was told that Ludwig Zatz came to eat my mother's gefilte fish.
All right.
I don't know how true it is, but that's what I was
He
told.
should have if he didn't.
Talking about Violet's family, Davy Labritsky used to be an MC in the Catskills.
Right.
And we used to go up to the hotel where Davy Labritsky was. And one year he put me into a skit where I had to say, fry one on one side, fry one on the other side.
You still remember your
I was a
lines.
short order cook. Yeah, I still remember my lines. Nobody laughed. That was the end of my showbiz career.
Now, I'm also suddenly remembering talk. I'm interested in the possibility of locating distant cousins. I recall supposedly there was some kind of Epstein branch or cousin in France, in Paris. Did anybody
Yes, there
know about
was.
that?
I don't know
There was.
anything about that.
I don't know anything about it either, but it's true.
Really?
They lived in Rouen.
Okay, Rouen.
Well,
My sister Lee, your mother would know about it.
But
I don't know anything
where-
about it.
Where did it come from? From which member? From which brother or
I
sister?
don't know. I have no idea. It must be further back.
Oh.
But I don't, I just don't know. And, let's see.
Okay, why don't you bring up, see if anybody remembers the story I was asking you about Rose being up in the tree.
Oh, yeah, that was...
About what?
Grandma Epstein once told me this story, and it stayed
Oh.
with me. I was very, very young, and I don't know how we got to talking about what her life was like when she was a child. And she was describing that. She said it was, it was okay in living in Russia where she did, and she said she was a tomboy, and she used to climb trees a lot. And she remembered vividly one time when there was a pogrom, and she heard the horses or whatever she heard coming, and she ran and climbed up a tree, and sitting in the tree watched some very, very devastating things, and she'd never forgotten it. And that particular story stayed with me.
Artie,
what she was?
Artie, sit up, please. Thank you. Very nice. Oh, Artie, you looking lovely. I've never seen you so lovely. Okay, stand by. Roll tape.
oh, we're filming.
Whoa, whoa. Listen, Charlie, I asked you not to make any moves.
Arthur, I want to hear some stories about my mother.
Well, okay,
Very
so-
little has been told about my mother.
Really?
Yes.
That surprises.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to tell the story of when my wife, Puck, was only my girlfriend and very early in our relationship, and we had met in Holland. And and I had just come back to New York. And Puck came over to visit me, and she had not met any other members of the family yet. And I spoke to you on the phone, and you told me that your mother, Ray, had an angina attack and was in a hospital. I don't remember what hospital it was. But I said to Puck, well, I have to go over and see my Aunt Ray.
Lennox
I
Hill.
really am dying. Huh?
Lennox Hill.
Lennox Hill, thank you. See, we want to add a little color to the story. So I wanted to go see Ray right away, and I said to Puck, I'm going to go see my aunt in the hospital. And she said, I'll come with you. And I said, well, okay, but I don't know what it's going to be like. Normally, She's very entertaining, but she's in the hospital with like a heart attack, and I don't know exactly what to expect. So we stopped, and I did something, should have known much better than that. I don't know if I ever told you that. I stopped and I got fruit. Bringing your mother fruit was probably the stupidest thing you could do in the world. She gave it away to somebody, I'm sure. But anyway, we got upstairs, and I'm saying I'm really nervous. I was really nervous. We got just outside the door, and I heard her voice come screaming down the hall.
Anyone who knew her remembers that voice.
I really won't help to clean this up. The exact words were, and if I don't have a fucking scotch here in about 2 minutes, I'm tearing the walls down.
This was Puck's introduction to my...
And I looked at Puck and said, I think she's okay. And we walked around the corner, and she was sitting up in a lotus position in the bed. I really had been so nervous because you told me she was maybe in bad shape. And across the room, she sees me. Artie, darling, like this, out go the arms. Get over here. And who is this gorgeous woman with you? And I said, Aunt Ray, this is Puck. She said, Puck, darling, oh, you're so gorgeous, Puck. Do you know that my husband 20 years ago ran away with my best girlfriend? God, how I miss her. And she had Puck Puck had tears streaming down her cheeks, and she did 25 minutes. And that was Puck's introduction to my mother. To your mother and to the family, and she married me anyway.
Yeah. 25 minutes of pure shtick.
Do you remember the songs your father used to write, the parodies for the family?
Yeah.
He wrote one for my mother. Do you remember it? Come to me, my little paranoiac. I'll take such insane care of you. I'll clothe you in the finest of straitjackets. We'll see the country's best asylums, too.
Right.
Someday we'll even have a young psychosis running neath the keeper's foots.
Right.
And in my idle hour, I will read you Schopenhauer, my buggy little paranoiac toots. That was done with love.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was brushing her hair while he sang it to her.
He used to love to have him sing that to her, too.
Yeah. She'd ask him, sing my song.
Oh, God.
Fun. More Ruby stories. Got any more Ruby stories?
Well, you know, what we really were talking about doing earlier is I happen to have found and brought the whole script of Izzy with
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which tells a lot of the stories.
Why don't you run down the siblings? No one's mentioned in a row all the siblings.
Who is who? Like it starts with Milton, I guess, was the first. Is that what you mean?
We have it in the family tree.
Yeah, we should get the tree so we can just get it on someone saying it.
It's Milton.
Yeah, why don't you stop for a minute? Let us regroup here. Let us think for a second.